You ever see a man in uniform think he owns the damn sun? Yeah, that happened. It started on a dead stretch of Route 73, where the desert don't talk and the sky burns your skin for free. Lieutenant Colonel Elise Morgan had one hand on the wheel, the other holding back exhaustion after a 3-day military health summit in Reno. The kind of trip where you wear your uniform, smile through speeches, and represent the flag, whether it's waving or burning. She was heading home to her teenage daughter in Bakersfield. Just her, the wind, and that heat. Then came the sirens, a single patrol car, crawling up behind her like a snake with flashing fangs. No reason, no warning, just authority itching to prove a point. Officer Brian Cotter, mid-30s, lobster-red skin from the sun, wrinkled uniform, mirrored sunglasses like he thought they made him God. He swaggered out like he'd been waiting all day for a woman like Elise. Or more honestly, a black woman like Elise, license, registration. Where you headed? Whose car is this? You military types think you're untouchable. You know the drill. Rude questions, slick tone, flashlight in the eyes. But Elise didn't flinch. She'd seen worse in Kandahar. Hell, she'd survived worse. She kept her voice calm, clipped. I'm a reservist returning from official travel. I'm heading home. Cotter squinted. A reservist, huh? That right? His smirk curled like smoke. Mind if I take a look in the trunk? She didn't consent, didn't resist. But Cotter yanked it open anyway. Nothing inside but some duffel bags, a first aid kit, and military paperwork. Still, he slammed it shut like he'd found a body. What he wanted was an excuse. What he needed was control. He leaned in too close, eyes narrowing. Out here, Colonel. You're just another nobody in my book. That was the moment Elise knew. This wasn't a stop. This was a test. She remembered what her grandmother used to say. Some men don't hate you because of what you've done. They hate you because of what you survived. But what Cotter didn't know, Elise wasn't just a colonel. She was forged in fire. She'd grown up in a rough corner of Baton Rouge, where streetlights worked half the time and gunshots were more reliable than bedtime stories. Her father left when she was 2. Her mother worked 2 jobs. Elise learned early. Strength wasn't optional. At 17, she enlisted. No backup plan, just grit and a chipped tooth from her first fight. Boot camp was a war zone of its own. Sweat, blisters, humiliation. Some instructors tried to break her. Others pretended she didn't exist. But Elise pushed through, slept 4 hours a night, trained until her limbs gave out, climbed ropes with bloodied palms, because she refused to quit. Years later, it was that same grit that saved her unit in Kandahar, when a convoy exploded and she pulled 3 soldiers out with her bare hands. No one asked what color she was that day. So, back on that highway, when Cotter's partner showed up, a massive man named Deputy Shane Mullins with a swastika tattoo barely hidden under his sleeve, Elise knew it was no coincidence. They ambushed her, beat her down, dragged her away. No backup, no body cam footage, just dust, blood, and silence. She woke up cuffed in a cell in a nowhere town called Copper Hill, population less than the lies the sheriff told on his campaign poster. They called her a domestic terrorist, claimed she assaulted officers, said her vehicle was stolen. And the sheriff? Lawrence Denner, a man with an ego the size of Nevada and morals the size of a penny. He grinned at the cameras during the press conference, painting Elise as a threat. She resisted. She was violent. We had no choice. But Elise had one lifeline, a hidden burner phone she kept taped under her waistband, because war taught her that danger wears a badge just as often as it wears a bomb vest. And with 1 bar of signal, she called Major Dana Reeves, her contact at the Pentagon. And just like that, things shifted. MPs arrived, then the FBI, then CNN, and then came everyone. The footage of Elise being dragged, bruised, and bloodied hit the internet. A teenager from a diner across the highway had filmed it all on a cracked iPhone. No one noticed him under the billboard. And that kid, Marcus Hill, 17, white, local, and brave as hell. He uploaded the video with the caption, "She told them she was a colonel. They didn't care." The clip went viral in 12 hours. The nation cracked open. Some people were furious, angry that a decorated officer had been treated like a criminal on a dusty roadside in her own country. Others doubled down, said she must have done something, that maybe she was lying, that maybe it was justified. Cable news panels lit up. Politicians tweeted carefully crafted outrage. The sheriff went silent. The mayor of Copper Hill resigned 2 days later. Elise? She was in the hospital. Broken ribs, a cracked kneecap, facial bruising, and yet she held her spine straighter than the flag they tried to strip from her name. She was released with no charges. No apology either. Just a manila envelope of misplaced paperwork and a nurse who whispered, "Thank you for your service. I'm so sorry." Then came the press. Microphones in her face, headlines twisted, some calling her a hero, others a hoax. Conservative radio dubbed her the uniformed agitator. Liberal blogs called her America's wake-up call. They dug into her past, her military record, her divorce, her daughter's Instagram. Her daughter, by the way, Nia, was pulled out of school the next day after someone wrote "Your mom's a liar" in Sharpie on her locker. And then came the threats, letters, emails, voicemails. Some said Elise should be ashamed. Others said she should be dead. But not everyone turned away. Remember Marcus, the kid with the iPhone? He testified on her behalf during the internal affairs hearing, told the board what he saw, what he filmed, and why he couldn't stay quiet. He got doxxed, lost his job at the gas station. But he didn't flinch. And then there was Officer Marisol Vega, a rookie from the next county over, Latina, barely 25. She stood up during the hearing and said, "I joined the force to protect, not to cover up. What happened to Colonel Morgan was a crime." She got suspended within a week, threatened, labeled a traitor by her own unit. But she didn't back down either. The Justice Department opened an investigation. The sheriff lawyered up. The Pentagon stood by Elise publicly, but privately, things were different. Meetings were canceled. Her name was left off the invite list. Her promotion? Delayed pending review. And then came the hardest part. They asked her to drop it, to let it go, for the sake of national unity, for the sake of optics, for her career longevity. Elise sat in that polished DC conference room, looking at the brass across the table. Men who had shaken her hand after Kandahar now looked through her, and they said, "Colonel, we can make this all go away, but we need you to let it go." She was silent for a long time. Then she asked, "What happens if I don't?" One general shrugged, another looked away, and in that moment, Elise knew. This wasn't about healing, it was about hiding. She was left with two choices: forgive and protect the system, or expose the rot and risk everything. She went home, tried to breathe. Every morning there were reporters on her lawn. Her daughter barely spoke. The mailbox overflowed with letters, some full of love, others full of venom. One had a bullet inside. She hired a lawyer, a soft-spoken man named Roland Choi who used to defend whistleblowers. He warned her, "They'll come after your pension, your clearance, your sanity." Elise smiled. Let them. Then came the town hall, Copper Hill's first public forum since the incident. The auditorium was packed. Elise stood at the back in plain clothes next to Marcus and Officer Vega. The sheriff wasn't there, but Senator Travis Cotter was, Brian's uncle. He took the mic, grinned, and said, "Our officers were defending themselves. The colonel's version is exaggerated. We stand with law and order." Elise walked up to the front, calm, steady, and she spoke. Told them what it felt like to have her medals crushed under a boot, what it felt like to be dragged through mud by men who called her a threat while she was bleeding in uniform, what it felt like to hear her daughter cry and not know how to make it stop. She ended with this: "I didn't survive war to die in silence." The room was quiet. Then someone stood, then another, and another. They applauded. But not everyone clapped. Outside, a protest brewed, two sides, one screaming, "Justice for Elise," the other chanting, "Support our cops." The line between patriot and pariah had never been thinner. A week later, Senator Cotter announced a bill to make it easier to charge military officers with obstruction during civilian traffic stops. Elise's name was never mentioned, but everyone knew. And now, she waits. For the next hearing. For the next storm. She spends mornings walking the orchard behind her house, just rows of apricot trees and silence. At night, she holds her daughter close. They talk more now. About fear, about legacy, about truth. But one thing's changed. She's no longer afraid to be loud. because Elise Morgan's voice isn't just hers anymore. It's every woman who was silenced, every soldier told to stand down, every kid watching the world ask them to pick a side when all they want is justice. And justice doesn't wear a badge, it doesn't salute a flag, it shows up, bleeding, bruised, but still standing. So, let me ask you, was she right to speak out? Or should she have walked away? Tell me what you think in the comments, because this isn't just her story, it's ours.